Okay, so in front of us is the infamous Radeon 7. Infamous because this card has gained a reputation for basically never being fixable. If you own a non-working Radeon 7, I can say with very high certainty that it's just another dead core. Anyways, like all the broken cards we get, we want to first start by checking for a short on the base voltage rails. I have my multimeter in continuity mode. If I probe something connected to ground, like ground itself, my multimeter beeps. To start with, we're going to check 12 volts and 3.3 volts at the PCI Express slot. To check 12 volts, we can get away with checking any one of the first 3 pins over here. Checking any one of these first 3 pins, we're perfectly good. And to check 3.3 volts, we start this notch and we go 4 pins left. Again, perfectly good. Now we want to check 12 volts at the external A pins. So we have 2 A pins, and which means that we can get away with just checking these 2 inductors over here. If we check the inductor on the left, we're perfectly good. And if we check the inductor on the right, again, we're perfectly good. Now we want to switch to resistance mode and check the voltage rails generated by the card itself. To start with, we're going to check 5 volts. I should note that 5 volts is typically the first power rail to turn on, and for this particular card, there's actually 2 5-volt rails. So the first 5-volt rail is actually found at an LDO over here. So checking this 5-volt rail at the rightmost pin to the top right, we have 15.6 kilo ohms, perfectly good. Now to check the other 5-volt rail, we have to check an inductor on the back. So the inductor in question is actually this one over here. So when we check the resistance, we'll be checking this inductor. Okay, checking that inductor on the back, we have 6 or so kilo ohms, again, perfectly good. Now we want to be checking the display rail, or sometimes called the 0.8 volt rail, over here. This should be a very low value, so in this case we have 30 ohms, perfectly good. And now let's go ahead and check the 0.75 volt rail over here. Again, this should be a very low value, and we have 36. That's, again, perfectly fine. Now let's check 1.8 volts, found on this inductor over here. This should be in the kilo ohm range. 2 kilo ohms and rising, perfectly good. And now let's check the 2.5 volt rail over here. If you don't know, 2.5 volts is used as the pump voltage for HBM. And in this case, we have something almost nearing 4 kilo ohms, so that's perfectly fine. Now let's go ahead and check the memory controller found over here. And we have 23 ohms, again, perfectly good. And now let's check the memory itself, the HBM memory, 24 ohms, perfectly fine. And finally, we want to be checking the SoC rail. But note that the SoC rail has a very low resistance, and so we want to be checking the resistance of our probes first, so we can subtract it from the SoC rail. And we have 0.1 or so, which is fine. Checking the SoC rail, we should have something around 4 ohms, and we have, in this case, 3.9. So minus 0.1 ohms gives us about 3.8, which is, again, perfectly fine. Since we're not short on any power rail, we should be safe to go ahead and power the card on and check for any missing voltage rails. Okay, powering the card on. First, we're going to check 5 volts. So checking the LDO over here, we have 5 volts. Checking the one on the back, 5 volts. Checking the display rail, 850 millivolts, perfectly fine. Checking the 0.75 volt rail, again, perfectly fine. Now let's check 1.8 volts. Again, 1.8. Now let's check 2.5, which we're missing. Checking the memory controller, missing. The memory itself, 0 volts. The SoC rail, 0 volts. And finally the V-core, 0 volts. Okay, so as you saw, we're missing a couple of voltage rails, including the V-core, the memory controller, the memory, the SoC, and the 2.5 volt rail. If you don't know, the next power rail to turn on is a 2.5 volt rail, and so we want to be checking the components responsible for generating 2.5 volts. Unlike most modern graphics cards, Vega and Radeon 7 are a little unique in that they don't use a single dedicated buck converter to generate 1.8 volts, or in this case, 2.5 volts. Instead, they use an NTLL D4901NF MOSFET over here. And this is controlled by an NCP5230 gate driver on the back. In this case, for 2.5 volts, we want to be checking this particular gate driver, which we will do in a bit. Okay, so since we're missing 2.5 volts, we want to be checking a few key signals around our NCP5230 over here. So we want to be checking VCC, which we can measure at the bottom end of this capacitor over here. We want to be checking VCCP, which I will have to measure directly at pin 1 at the actual NCP5230. And then we want to be checking enable at this component over here in the top right pin. Anyways, let's plug it in and check those signals. Okay, checking VCC, we have 12 volts as it should be. Checking VCCP, we have 12 volts again, that's good. And finally checking enable, we have 3 millivolts. Not high enough. Okay, so as you can see, we're missing enable. And enable, as I mentioned before, can be found on a rather weird component over here. So I should note that I can't actually figure out what this component is. I don't have a schematic or data sheet, but I have figured out at least a little bit of how it's supposed to work, and we'll touch on that in a moment. But first, let's measure the various pins connected to this and see what the voltages are. For this particular component, we only need to measure pin 1 and 3. That's because pin 2 is ground, pin 5 is enable, which is 0 volts, of course, and pins 1 and 4 are connected together. And so pin 4 is a redundant check, as we're already going to measure pin 1. So let's go ahead and measure pin 1 and 3 and see what their voltages are. Measuring pin 1, 6.3 volts, 6.4 and rising. Measuring pin 3, we have 50 millivolts. Okay, so as you saw, pin 1 was 6.3 volts, 6.4, and pin 3 was 50 millivolts. Now, like I mentioned, despite the fact that I don't know what it is, I do know at least a little bit of how it's supposed to work based off of what I can figure out. I should note that this component is not an AND gate despite how it looks, but it is a transistor of sorts. So basically, the way this thing is supposed to function, as far as I can tell, is that we're supposed to have 5.5 volts on pin 3. And if we had 5.5 volts on pin 3, we'd also by extension have 0 volts on pin 4, which means that we'd have 0 volts on pin 1 because they're both connected. And furthermore, we'd also have 1.2 volts on pin 5, which is enable. So what is pin 3? Well, as it turns out, pin 3 is actually P good from our 0.85 volt rail, or 850 millivolt rail, or display rail as I called it earlier, and also P good for our 0.75 volt rail over here. If just in case it's not dead clear, the P good signal from our 0.8 volt rail or display rail is connected to P good for our 0.75 volt rail. So that means that we're missing P good, and that by extension we don't have 2.5 volts or the other power rails that turn on after 2.5 volts. For those of you who are unaware, P good tells us whether the 0.8 volt rail and the 0.75 volt rail are perfectly working. If those rails work fine, P good stays high at I think in this case 5.5 or so volts, and if there was something wrong with either of those two rails, P good would be shorted and become 0 volts and stop 2.5 volts from turning on. But as you saw, we do actually have 850 millivolts here, and we have 750 millivolts here, which implies to us that both power rails work perfectly fine. So because both power rails work perfectly fine, we have a suspicion is that it's never generated. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our multimeter in diode mode, and we're going to measure P good while the card is off, and then while the card is on, again in diode mode. If they're both open line, we can then assume that the card is not generating P good for some reason, and that whatever component is supposed to pass whatever voltage to P good is no longer passing current. So anyways, let's go ahead and plug it in, and we're going to measure P good at a transistor over here. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to measure P good, as I mentioned, at a transistor over here at the very bottom pin in the middle. So as you can see, while the card is off, we have open line, and if we turn the card on, we still have open line, which tells us that P good is not actually being shorted whatsoever, which is what we expect given that both the 0.75 volt rail as well as the 0.8 volt or display rail is working without issue. So what this means is that whatever component is supposed to be passing current to the P good line is likely damaged and or faulty. And in fact, I can tell you exactly which component that is. So if we go to resistance mode, there's a resistor just under the 0.75 volt rail over here. Typically, this resistor is supposed to be around 2 kilo ohms. I think 2.2 is a bit more exact. But in this case, if we measure that resistor in circuit, you'll notice that we have 67 kilo ohms, which is far higher than 2.2 kilo ohms. So anyways, given that that's our dead component, let's go ahead and replace it and see if the card becomes any more functional. Okay, so as you can see, we have a microscopic view of our 0.75 volt buck converter. I should note that, as you can also see, we have a bit of corrosion in this general area. So the dead resistor, that is 67 kilo ohms, is actually this one over here. So obviously this needs replacement, but given that I repair graphics cards for a living, I can tell you right now that I'm also going to be replacing the buck converter, these two resistor, this capacitor, and I think that should be good, though I might replace these two as well, given that they are all heavily corroded and would probably die soon anyways. Okay, so as you can see, I didn't actually do what I said I would do. So I said I would replace just the components to the left of these two capacitors, as well as the buck converter. But working on it kind of made me realize that it's probably best if I just replace all the components in this general area, minus these two caps. And so I'll go ahead and replace every single component in this area using the donor board I have, the Radeon 7 donor board I have lying around, with a dead core. Okay, so as you saw, I rewired P good back to the VII, and I replaced the buck converter as well as all the components around the buck converter. If we now power the card on and we check for P good, you'll notice that we now have 5.4 volts. And if we check the 2.5 volt rail, we have 2.5 volts. And then we also have the V core, the memory controller, and SoC rail, which means that the card has all voltages required. So let's go ahead and boot into Windows and see the card in all of its glory. Okay, so as you can see, we're in Windows, and this is typically the part in which I would be running a game and showing you the card working without issue. However, this card can't work without issue, and that's because, unfortunately, this, like a lot of Radeon 7s, has the infamous code 43. Now, if you don't know, code 43 generally denotes an error relating to either the BIOS or the memory. But I've already replaced the BIOS chip and flashed it, and unfortunately that means that we can pretty much just assume that, like a lot of Radeon 7s, this is a memory-related problem. And since the memory is built into the core itself, we by extension have a dead core. So unfortunately, this is a diagnosis video. If you get a Radeon 7 and you have, let's say, code 43, then you can safely assume it's just a dead core. The exceptions to this are absurdly rare, to the point where I would say more than 99% of Radeon 7s with code 43 are dead cores. I should note that you should try to avoid tricking yourself into thinking the card works. As you saw, we had code 43, but if we now check it, it says the device is working properly. But this is a load of nonsense, and in actuality, this is just a bit of driver manipulation so that our code 43 error goes away. And we can confirm this because if we go into GPU-Z, you'll notice that when we look at the actual memory size itself, we have 0 megabytes, the GPU clock and the default clock and as well as the memory clock are all 0. And we also know it's not the BIOS because we can, well, save the BIOS as you can see, and it saves without issue. Yep. And we can also write the BIOS to the card itself. I'm not going to show this on camera, but on screen I should say, but like I said, it does work. So unfortunately, like I said, this is a diagnosis video. If you have a Radeon 7, this is the majority case, along with just it not being detected despite normal resistances and normal voltage. Okay, so as you can see, it's just another dead core. I kind of owned myself at the beginning of the video because I said if you own a non-working Radeon 7, I can tell you with high certainty it's just a dead core. And then I made the mistake of trying to fix this thing, thinking it'd be the exception and I'd have a glorious YouTube video. But yeah, unfortunately, just another dead core Radeon 7 with code 43. Speaking of Radeon 7, I often get asked about whether they're repairable and what their repairability rate is, and if there's a fix for code 43. I should note that I typically don't take Radeon 7s for repair due to the very high dead core rate, and despite the fact that I don't take Radeon 7s for repair, I would guess that more than 9 out of 10 Radeon 7s have dead cores. That's my guess. I don't know this is a fact, because I don't take these for repair, but that's my guess, and I think it's a relatively accurate baseline. Anyways, I do hope you learned something watching this video. Unfortunately, it's kind of long, maybe a little too long for how simple it was, and it's also not a fix. And to add to this, I actually made less than minimum wage trying to fix this card and then filming it, because I was an idiot and thought that I'd actually have a Radeon 7 repair. But if you want to help me make more than minimum wage on this particular card, or you want to learn how to professionally waste your time trying to fix dead core cards like this, I now have a Patreon. And one of the benefits you get as a patron is that you get access to my Discord server, where you can ask me and the various graphics card technicians in the server questions if you ever need any help. And by extension, like I said, learn how to fix graphics cards at an accelerated pace. Otherwise, if my videos or my channel have helped you out and you want to return the favor in a non-financial way, you can subscribe to me on YouTube or follow me on Twitch. I just did a stream today. Not very eventful, unfortunately, but there was a stream nonetheless. And or just maybe tell a friend about me if you know somebody with a broken graphics card, or just any other electronic. I do take laptops for repair, as well as metal detector remotes. I have one in a box somewhere. That should be a fix. In either case, the main takeaway for this video is not the power sequencing of Radeon 7, but rather you shouldn't even bother trying to fix one if you do have a broken one. Like you saw here, it looked like a fixable card, but actually it's just a dead core. Anyways, like always, I do hope you got something from the video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.